Good afternoon. This is Victoria Hospin, SPJ New England correspondent with Student News Live. Today I'm joined with Spencer Kimball, the director of Emerson College Polling. Spencer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Victoria, thank you so much for having me.
So, to start, it's election day and you're in DC. Can you tell us about the atmosphere of the nation's capital today?
Well, normally in DC, there's a lot of hustling and bustling with politicians, but they're all back home in their districts. So the city's a little quiet today, but the weather is beautiful for us who get to be here.
Great to hear. And since today is everyone's heading out to the ballots, can you elaborate on the latest polls this evening?
Well, there's a series of swing states that the country is focusing in on. Obviously, there's a national poll that people have kept an eye on, and that poll leans a little bit towards Harris. It's tied to maybe 1 or 2 points up for the Democrat. Traditionally, the conventional wisdom is that the Democrat needs to win the popular vote in order to win the Electoral College at the state level. And when we look at those state polls, we see also very close races across those swing states.
And a lot of the diction surrounding this election is that the presidential race is close. How close have you seen these polls as of
Well,
currently?
if we go back to the 2020 election, we can see that in a state of Georgia, it was decided by under 12,000 votes. Similar results in Arizona, even shorter, win in Wisconsin. So we've seen a lot of close elections in 2020. And in 2016, we saw very similar in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin again, Michigan, very close elections that broke for the Republicans. So this time around, we're waiting to see which direction this close election will fall.
Absolutely. And has anything stood out to you in this election cycle in terms of polling?
Well, it's been a very exciting election cycle to monitor. Remember, we had President Biden as the presumptive Democratic nominee for most of the election cycle, and Donald Trump was able to win that Republican nomination pretty quickly in the nominating contest and was becoming the presumptive nominee by February or March. And so now that race was shaping up to be a very close race until that debate where Joe Biden falters and then drops out of the race. And we saw former President Trump with like a 5-point lead nationally. And then Vice President Kamala Harris comes in and takes the lead back from Trump. And then we've watched over maybe the last 5 or 6 weeks, that lead kind of dissipate to where we are today in a very tight race.
And can you just go over once more the battleground states and how close those states are?
Well, we'll start with the ones that I think are least competitive into the more competitive states. And there's not much difference here, but a state like Arizona tends to be leaning towards Trump. Now, this would be a pickup for Trump because Biden won it in 2020, but Trump had carried it in 2016. So Arizona has been a state that's been trending towards the Republicans, really on the issue of immigration, which is different than what we see in the other states where the issue of the economy is more important. But Arizona would be a strong one for Trump. Michigan looks to be strong for Harris. There's a state that Biden was able to take back from Trump in 2020 by about 2.5 points. We currently have Harris slightly ahead in Michigan, similar to that margin, and we'll see if she can hold on there. And then the race gets tighter within Georgia, Nevada, Georgia. What's the next? North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Those are all 1-point race, leaning slightly towards Trump. And then over in Nevada and Wisconsin, those are toss-up races that we think could go in either direction. So as you can hear in the polling results, these are really close races that, based on turnout, could impact who's going to win these states.
Absolutely, thank you. And Democrats and Republicans are not just fighting for the White House this election, but also for control of Congress. How are the congressional races shaping up currently?
Yeah, so for the House, it looks like the Democrats are doing pretty well. Out of the 435 House of Representatives, they have to pick up a couple of seats to take back the majority. And they seem to be in a decent position to do so, particularly as the vote comes in, let's say, California and perhaps a couple of districts in New York. Regarding the Senate, that looks to be flipping over to the Republicans. Earlier this year, Democrat Joe Manchin dropped out of the race, became an independent, kind of moving West Virginia from a Democrat or independent to a Republican seat after this election. And out in Montana and Ohio, there's two Democrat incumbents that are trailing in the polls, and we'll see if they can hold on with an upset. Otherwise, those are two potential seats for the Republicans to pick up.
Absolutely. And Spencer, can you elaborate on the work that you're currently doing in DC?
Well, we're down in Washington as part of Emerson College. We have a program here. We work with different community leaders and organizations throughout, and it gives us a chance down here to also discuss our methodology with other pollsters who are like-minded researchers.
Thank you. And just as a closing off question, has anything surprised you this current election in terms of polling?
Well, we'll find out tonight at election night when they actually count the votes. Traditionally, we're going to have a couple of polls that are outliers, and we're going to have to live with those results, but we'll wait until they actually count the votes to see where those surprises lie.
Absolutely. Well, Spencer, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you again for having me.